Hello and good morning. I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and I am excited to spend the next hour with you, chatting with you about anything that you want. I have some topics. I'm happy to answer your questions, and I have some ambassador questions over here that I might talk about a little bit too. Let's pull those up to see what they look like. Oh no, I won't put. I don't need to put them on the other window. I'm just going to read them out loud. See, Mark has a flu here. Mark, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you are. Hope you feel better. That's rough. Austin says, I'm curious what Jamey has to share about favorite content creators. Actual LOL recently put out a video, said that he's struggling a bit to keep his channel afloat. Yeah, I saw that video too. That was unfortunate to see. He has over 100,000 subscribers, and it sounds like he's, I think he is sponsored and he has ad revenue from YouTube, but that isn't always enough to maintain a channel. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and I think he's trying to cover that. This is his job right now, and he has a family, so that is a lot to cover. The thing that I wanted, the reason I put that in the topic today is that I am starting to think about which creators to select for this year's charity auction. If you don't know, every year we select. In the end, I select. I'm the final person who decides, but I get input from other people. I select 10 content creators who I have not featured in a previous charity auction, typically creators who I want, that I really like, that I admire, that whose content I enjoy, and who I want to highlight. Maybe they aren't as big as some of the other content creators. They only have 1,000 followers. So they're growing. They're finding their legs. And I feature them on the charity auction. I reach out to them and I say, hey, do you want to be involved with this? And if so, all you have to do is pick a charity, and I will do everything else. You don't have to do anything else. I will highlight your channel or your podcast, your blog, and I will highlight the charity that you're looking to support. And we raise money through the charity auction, both from people who bid on Stonemaier stuff that we put up for auction, and then Stonemaier Games doubles that amount. And Fulfill Right traditionally has also doubled the highest winning bid. So it ends up being a lot of money going to a lot of great charities, and we get to highlight great content creators. So my question for you today is, what are a few of your favorite content creators right now that you think we might want to consider highlighting for this year's charity auction? And I understand that that you probably don't know offhand what are the 100 or so content creators that we've already featured in the past. That's completely fine. But just please know that if you suggest someone that we have already featured, they wouldn't be eligible for this year. Long question for you to think about today. Favorite content creators who you don't think that we featured in the past, I guess is the question. Garrett said, have I heard of Here, H-E-R-E in all caps? So the Garrett phrased it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll show the question. It takes place from a single vantage over the course of many years. The camera never cuts or moves. It reteams Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, and Robert Zemeckis. Looks fascinating. I have not heard of that, but that sounds incredible. How does the camera never cut or move? That's impressive. No, I need to see that now. I'll make a note of that. Is it a movie? Is it a show? Here. Yeah, I'll check that out. See if there's a trailer out there or something like that. Steve said, what's today's chocolate of the day? Good question, Steve. Today's chocolate of the day, I have a chocolate chip cookie that I bought from a local baker over the weekend, a local baker who also hosted a game day. I'll talk about it a little bit later. And so it'll be my last chocolate chip cookie that I bought from this local baker named Matt, a friend of mine. Ian, sorry. Ian, I thought you had a question. You were just thanking me for answering your question about Red Rising on our website earlier today. Garrett says, have you featured Board Gaming Ramblings? They are great and would highly recommend. They might be a bit larger channel than you're looking for. They're still in the range. I think even in the past, we might have featured the Dice Tower way back in the day when they were still pretty big, but definitely not as big as they were now. I don't know. I think we have, but I will make a note of it because I also subscribe to and enjoyed their content. Board Gaming Ramblings. Yeah. Feel free to suggest anyone whose content you really enjoy, even someone who might be a little bit newer. I would suggest, I think there's a difference between new but consistent. So if someone's been creating content, if someone is starting a new channel, but they've only posted like one video or one blog post or one podcast. I'm looking for someone who's maybe creating consistent content for a little while. Even just a few months makes a big difference. Let's see. Ray says, Ray also has some feedback about the decimate action. So on the recent Vantage update, I talked about the 6 different location, 6 different action types in the game, really, or 6 different skill types that you can use to perform actions. 6 different approaches to anything that you encounter in Vantage. They are move, look, engage, help, take, and then decimate. And a few people said they struggle a little bit with the word decimate. Decimate is the word that we are using currently to represent if you approach something with force. So if you encounter something and you approach it with force, so it isn't always something that's alive. It could be like a rock that you need to move. And decimate is a broad category that encompasses a lot of smaller words that are used specifically for that category. But Ray, I hear your point. I hear that a few people don't love the word decimate, and we are considering other options. I think the word decimate does work for this category, but enough people have said that it's a little jarring to them that we might consider another word. In fact, I'll just say the word that we're considering, or really the 2 words we're considering, are disrupt and strike. I think these are 2 potential alternatives that represent this entire category of a more forceful approach to the world. We also consider the word force, but force is already a subword used within this category in Vantage. Blue Falcon. Yeah, we did feature Blue Falcon Board Gaming last year. And Corey says that $3,259 was donated to Harmony House, a day shelter for those that are homeless or at risk of homelessness. And that's a great example of a great content creator and a great charity that we supported in a recent charity auction. Let's see. Blue Falcon says, Ben from Affect Gaming, primarily on TikTok. I don't follow TikTok much at all, but that doesn't mean there aren't some great content creators over there. So Affect Gaming, I'll look into that. Again, I'm not familiar with that channel, but it's always great to discover new channels this way. Also says, is actual LOL eligible? Maybe, given the circumstances, maybe. I think we may have actually featured him in the past, but it is okay for you to mention that. I know that we featured Board Game Buzz last year. We featured Before You Play. I'm pretty sure we featured Paula Deming, but I will check on that. Brothers Murph, I think we have, but I'll check just in case. I do like their content. And Good Time Society. We definitely have not featured Good Time Society. They are a little bit of a larger channel, but worth checking out to see if they would be interested in that. Chad says, I watched the last episode of Dark Matter and really liked it. I have not watched the last episode yet, but I am excited about it. He says the intro to the show is very neat. Usually we skip past the intro, so maybe I'm missing out on something there. Chad's top show intros are Stranger Things, Daredevil, Dark Matter, X-Men. The ones that I actually stay through, that I actually listen to consistently, are Stranger Things, X-Men, the animated show, and anything in the Game of Thrones. So House of the Dragon. I do really like the theme song. It's a really good theme song. So I do listen through that, but usually I skip intros if I have the option. Right now, since you're talking about shows, so we have started watching House of the Dragon, but we haven't watched the second episode. So I don't want to talk about that today, just in case. I don't want to spoil anything for myself. Megan has been out of town the last few days, and so I have watched movies spread over lunch and dinner that I don't think Megan would be interested in watching, including some older movies like Broadcast News, The Spanish Prisoner, and Coherence. And if you like Dark Matter, I would definitely recommend the movie Coherence. I also really like The Spanish Prisoner. I think a few of you may have recommended that to me as a great kind of heist movie, but it's a heist movie flipped around. The main character that you're following, there's a heist being performed on him instead of him performing the heist. Broadcast News, I did not like. I have to say, It felt dated. It felt pretentious. Did not like broadcast news. I also watched a few newer movies, including The Holdovers, which I thought was pretty solid. I enjoyed The Holdovers. And I watched Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire, probably the newest movie that I watched. And I thought it was good. It's tough to watch that after recently watching Godzilla -1, which is so good. But Godzilla versus Kong was actually a really pretty movie. They used some really beautiful colors in the movie, so it was beautiful to watch, even though it wasn't as deep as or as moving as Godzilla -1. Let's see. Ian says his YouTube channel goal is to get consistent and big enough to be featured on the Stonemaier Games charity auction. As for suggestions, dads and dice. Dads and dice. Thank you, Ian. I'll make another note about one. Talking about other words for the action in Vantage that represents using brute force. So it includes things like attacking, destroying, cutting. I'm avoiding spoiler words here. Attacking, destroying, cutting, forcing. So strike does actually apply to a lot of the words in the category. It doesn't apply perfectly to all of them. I've gone back and forth between strike and disrupt. The consensus from playtesters seems to be disrupt so far, which I'm fine going with. I think that does work as well. Betsy says, thanks for recommending The Devil's Plan. Oh, yeah. This is a gamers TV show, gamers reality competition show that I recommended a week or so ago. She says, I was surprised how complex the games were, even after you stated that as such. Yeah, you have to look through, you have to watch through like literally 7 to 10 minutes of rules explanations to understand how the game works. Love how most players helped each other even in the competitive games. Yeah, it was neat to see that happen. I agree. Yeah, it was neat to see the social dynamics that formed from those games. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Betsy. That's great. Thanks for checking it out. Your inner child mentioned 3-minute board gaming. I think I have featured 3-minute board gaming. Yeah, I'm almost positive that I have. And I have featured also Nursey Games. Nursey does 3-minute game reviews as well. And Dusty is, as I mentioned, Dusty at the Mill. I have featured the Mill on the charity auction. And Dusty is moving on to other things. But I wish Dusty the best. And I'm excited for what Carol and Molly will continue to bring to the channel. They have been very active on the Mill for quite some time. The Mill, if you don't know, the Mill is a sponsored channel. The Stonemaier Games sponsors specifically to talk independently about Stonemaier Games stuff. So they are completely independent. They can say whatever they want about Stonemaier stuff, but we do sponsor them, and they are very transparent about that. Edward says, when will Tapestry be restocked on the web store? Let's see if I know the answer to that, Edward. So I'm going to look up a Google Doc over here that shows shipping tracking. Okay, very soon. Looks like early. It depends on your exact web store as to exactly when it will arrive, but it looks like early July is what we're looking at right now. Yeah. So, and currently, just to let you all know, July 24th is a big day for the web store because that is when we will launch Rolling Realms Redux. So here is the box. I have now fully revealed the box to Rolling Realms Redux. That's why I'm showing it to you here. So this is the box. You can see it's a taller box. It's the same size as the original Rolling Realms box, but it's taller, so it can fit all the realms ever created. And so we have this and some other things launching on the web store on July 24th. And so if you do have something that you want to get via a restock, because we will have some products being restocked throughout early July, some new products. I'm sorry, some older products like Tapestry. If you know that you're going to get Rolling Realms Redux, you might wait until July 24th to consolidate everything into one package. Just giving you a heads up about that in case it affects you. Chad says, Nelson All Over Gaming. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Nelson. So Nelson All Over Gaming. Thank you for that recommendation. Also, the other question of the day that I had was about Rolling Realms Redux. I did something a little bit different with this game, especially given that it is just a new core set for Rolling Realms. Same rules of Rolling Realms, 12 new realms. I did something different where I revealed this over the course of a year. It's kind of similar to what I'm doing with Vantage, but Vantage is completely brand new to everyone. Rolling Realms was not brand new when I started revealing it. But I am curious. I'd like to write about how the reveal for this went. How do you feel about me revealing this over the course of a year, kind of doing monthly design diary reveals, opposed to waiting until a week or two or a couple weeks before the launch to reveal the existence and details of this new core set of Rolling Realms? How do you feel about that approach? Do you think that works for Rolling Realms? Do you wish that I had just waited to announce it like today, and then, or yeah, how do you feel about it? Let me know about that in the comments if you have any thoughts about it. Ian mentions a channel called Totally Tabled. I'm asking for content creators that you enjoy, that you don't think that I featured on past charity auctions, that I might consider for this year's charity auction. And part of the reason I'm asking now is because I haven't heard of all of these. Some of these I have heard of, but some of them I haven't. So I'm going to follow some of these and check out their content to see if they are content creators that I could see myself really getting into. Because I want to feature content creators whose content I really personally enjoy. I want to show my full enthusiasm for them. So part of it is that I get some buy-in on this as well. So I appreciate you sharing these so I can discover some new content creators today. Paige says, I do like the idea of decimate being used as a word because it's jarring. And actually, I like the way you said this, Paige. It could potentially make the player think twice of using morality before using violence. And Paige, I really like the way you said this. Decimate is selected as a jarring word. A part of the thing that I mentioned in the recent Vantage design diary is that I wanted to create a game where you had more approaches to the world than killing stuff and breaking stuff and smashing and destroying. There are plenty of games out there that already do that. Video games and tabletop games where the only approach that you can do when you encounter someone else or something else is to attack it or destroy it. And I wanted to do something different. And so I think part of that's the reason I selected that word, is for it to be jarring, for you to maybe think twice about smashing your way through the world of Vantage, even though you also do have that option. If that is your preferred way to interact with the world, you certainly have that option. So Paige, I really like that you said that, because that is why I selected the word. And decimate does kind of mean to destroy most of something, but not necessarily completely kill it or completely destroy it. And so that's why I chose that word originally. I do like the channel Board of It. We have featured Board of It in the past. I do like them. Your inner child says, do I have any advice for being inclusive for people who want to be exclusive? How can we invite and respect those who have different ideas for what inclusive means? Well, that's a big question and a great question. How do we invite and respect those who have different ideas for what inclusive means? So I don't have the exact wording for this, but I really like the way that someone worded this recently. I did a blog post about inclusivity in gaming and diversity. And someone brought up that there is a key difference between behavioral exclusion and the type of exclusion that is about things that we cannot change about ourselves. For example, if I owned a restaurant and I wanted to say, you cannot come into my restaurant if you're going to smoke a cigarette in my restaurant. That is a behavioral choice. I know getting addicted to nicotine is a thing, but ultimately it is a choice that you have made to smoke. And I'm making the choice not to allow you to smoke in my restaurant. Versus me saying, you can't come into this restaurant because of your gender or your race, your ethnicity. You can't choose that. That is something about you that you can't choose. So I think these are two different groups, two different types of being inclusive versus exclusive. I think it is fair game to exclude someone based on their behavior, if that behavior is going to hurt other people, as cigarette smoke does. And so if someone so back to your question, how do we invite and respect those who have different ideas for what inclusive means? If those ideas are about behavior, I think that is something to be respected. If those ideas are about things that we cannot change about ourselves, our gender, our race, our sexual identity, things like that, I don't think we need to respect that type of exclusion. And I think that is an area where universal inclusion is really, really important. The person who said it previously said it much more succinctly, but that is a summary of it for me. Dave said, I like watching, or Dominic says, I like watching Board Game Dave. You know, I also like Board Game Dave. I don't think we featured Board Game Dave in the past. So thank you for mentioning that. Oh, Tim mentioned that he is trying out Deal or No Deal Island, another competition show that I recommended, a much lighter competition show than The Devil's Plan, but still one that I genuinely enjoyed. I thought it had some good gamification to it. And Tim, I'm glad hopefully you're enjoying it. You said you're watching it. I don't know if you're enjoying it, but it is one that I recommend, especially for summer viewing. It's a good summer viewing show. Kit Music Co. says, I attended Origins last week and needed a game from the library that played at 6. We settled on Rolling Realms. Learned and played it, and we all loved it. Excited for Rolling Realms Redux. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope you had a good time at Origins too. I'm glad you gave Rolling Realms a try. It is one that I think, you know, it can play at any scale out of the box. It plays up to 6. And I think it's the nice thing that I found about Rolling Realms is that you can play what feels like a full game just playing 3 realms. You don't have to play 9 realms. You can just play around and then move on to something else if you want to. Nice flexibility in the show of that. Let's see. So Garrett says 2 older movie recommendations if you haven't seen The Conversation and No Way Out. I don't think I've watched. I'm going to need another sticky note today. So many recommendations today. So The Conversation. I feel like I may have watched that, but I'm not sure. Conversation and No Way Out. Thank you for those recommendations. I appreciate that. Ian has other content creators, Thinker Themers. We have featured them before. Purple Moose Plays, I think we have. Tabletop Tolson, we have featured. Pam Wells, you know, I don't think I knew. I love Pam Wells' content. Awesome content to follow if you're a game designer, but I am pretty sure that we have not featured Pam before, and we should. Faster the Meeple, we have featured, and Board Game Dave, you mentioned that, or someone else mentioned that a second ago. Helen says, Box of Delights. I don't think we featured Box of Delights. I'll make a mention of that, or a consideration of that at least. Gaming Rules, we have featured, forgetting his name right now, but we have featured them. Meet Me at the Table, One Stop Co-op Shop, we definitely have. They're my favorite co-op channel, hands down. And J-Play. I don't think I'm familiar with J-Play or Meet Me at the Table. So many notes here today. Meet Me at the Table. Me at the Table. Awesome. Thank you for these recommendations. Blue Falcon mentioned some alternatives to Decimate, including Overcome, Compel. Compel fits into another. Vehement. Overcome is interesting. It might be a little bit too broad. I think you get, because you can overcome something without using force or damage or destruction. Well, this category is all about force, damage, destruction, attacking, that sort of stuff. Thanks. Tim says, have I been watching The Acolyte? We have actually not started The Acolyte yet. I'm waiting for Megan to get back into town before we get into The Acolyte. Board Game Hot Takes. Yes, they have been in the auction. I'm 99% sure that Board Game Hot Takes have been in the auction, but I will double check that. We've done it for so long now that I forget who exactly we've used. Liz Davidson's Beyond Solitaire. I think we featured Liz. Board of It, we definitely have. But I will check out. I know I follow Beyond Solitaire, but I don't know if I've featured Liz before. I think she also recently won. Did she win one of the categories for like the Gaming Geeks? Austin says, have I watched Bridgerton? I have not watched Bridgerton. Megan watches it. Seems like it may fare well with Obsession. I'm looking forward to receiving the Wessex and Upstairs Downstairs expansions today, just today. That's awesome. I hope you enjoyed them. I'm going to try to catch up on comments a little bit here. Jordan's enjoying Sam Healy's Flip Side of Board Games channel. Yeah, it's neat to see Sam still creating. I'm pretty sure that I subscribe to it, but I'm taking notes anyway, just in case. Just, you know, I follow hundreds, maybe even thousands of content creators at this point, so I don't have all the names in my head. Brandon says achieved versus ascribed status. Achieved versus ascribed. Might need some more context there, Brandon. I'm missing something in that comment. Mark says, for the monthly reveal about Rolling Realms Redux, since it wasn't just about Rolling Realms Redux, yeah, so it was about Rolling Realms as well as about the entire brand. We were also looking forward to upcoming promos, a multi-purpose newsletter. Yeah, that's something that we've moved towards, and you're right that the format seemed to work better because we had other things to talk about too, not just revealing the new core set. Jess says, do I remember correctly that after Redux, you don't plan to produce more realms? The plan is that we don't plan to produce more realms inspired by other games. But we will still produce realms based on Stonemaier Games, on new Stonemaier Games. And part of the reason for that is that there are just so many realms already out there. I think we've asked people essentially to build a pretty big collection of realms at this point. And part of it too is that we designed this Rolling Realms Redux box to hold all realms ever designed. And so if we keep making and releasing new realms based on other games, we're going to run out of space in that box. So I think it is a pretty good constraint for us to do that. There might be exceptions that we make, but I think they'll be pretty rare. Yeah. Mark says, when will the Redux realms be revealed in full? So when we'll actually show what these realms look like? That's a good question, Mark. I haven't decided. I haven't decided yet. I don't necessarily have an exact schedule for doing that. I think probably next week, though. I did mention that there will be three promo realms on our web store at the same time as Rolling Realms Redux, and I think I will reveal them next week during a live play. That is currently my plan. Julie says that she likes the gradual reveal for Rolling Realms Redux. I've been interested to see what comes next each month. Thank you for that feedback, Julie. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I'm very glad to hear that. Ray says, could it be overpower rather than overcome, since it's more clearly emphasizes the use of force? Overpower, I do like more than overcome. Overpower, I could see that working for many of the words. I'll make a note of that. Overpower has potential. Yeah, I like that. Paige mentions Our Family Plays Games and Room 51. We have featured Room 51. I think I tried to feature Our Family Plays Games. Unfortunately, we had I made a mistake early on and had a falling out with Our Family Plays Games. I love what they do. I love their creation. I love how they're featuring voices in the industry. I don't think they want anything to do with me, though, which I totally respect. And yeah, I respect that. It's unfortunate because I want to support them, but they're doing a great job on their own. I don't think they need my support. Cardboard Herald, I do love Cardboard Herald. I have featured Jack in the past. Corey says, Curvin from 4Y Games, another TikTok creator, recently hit 10,000 followers, does a ton of content on game design, board game reviews, diversity inclusion, and freeze-drying food. That's a twist at the end. Curvin for 4Y Games. 4Y Games. I need to mark the ones that are on TikTok here, because otherwise I'll never find them. Table for One about gaming and mental health. Table for One. I'll check that out. I may have to cut off the recommendations here because I definitely have enough at this point. But thank you. You can keep them coming if you think of anyone else. Tim says he and Amber, his wife, are heading to Mexico tomorrow to celebrate our 10th wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary, Tim. That's wonderful. Hoping to find fun ways to pack games in our backpacks. Good luck with squeezing them in, Tim. I know you've asked for travel games in the past. Hopefully you have some good ideas of games that you both enjoy and will enjoy on your vacation. Tim says, what about Force as an alternative to Decimate? We have considered Force, but the tricky thing about Force is that it is already a word used within the category. And it applies really well as a subcategory. So I think I'll probably keep that as a subcategory, not the overall term for the full category. Mark says he likes cozy board games. Cozy board games on TikTok. Awesome. Chet says most of the games you've designed are competitive. With the exception of Smitten up here and and Vantage. Did you have to adjust your design process in order to account for cooperative gameplay? I don't know if I've had to adjust the process itself. I think the process has remained consistent, but it has been designing for cooperative play is I don't know if the design is different, but the mechanisms are different because I really like cooperative games that aren't playing against an antagonistic AI. So they're more focused on limited information where you still have to collaborate with the other players, where you can help other players. The things they do can impact the choices that you make. And so it's just a different philosophy of game design that I've enjoyed exploring, especially with Vantage and with Smitten to a smaller extent. Yeah. Oh, our friend Joe's popping up to say, good question. Yeah, it has been, it's been an interesting challenge with Vantage to design that way, but I've really have enjoyed it. I think one nice thing that comes with cooperative games is asymmetry is more flexible. Like ideally in cooperative games, if you have asymmetric abilities, they are still balanced from player to player so that one player doesn't have, an ability that is so much better than any other player's ability. But you have more flexibility there. Whereas in a competitive game, if you have an asymmetric ability, a starting ability in particular, that is much stronger or much weaker than other players, that can really ruin the game for a lot of people. Whereas that is, you could have some more variance, I think, in a cooperative game, the asymmetry. Kevin says, first comment. Well, welcome to your first comment, Kevin. Thanks for popping in. I want to say thanks for what you do here. The way you handle questions and feedback, both positive and negative, is always respectful and constructive. I try to do that. I don't always succeed, but I appreciate you saying that. That is my intent. Makes this a fun and inviting space to talk about a great hobby. Thanks for always being a spark of positivity. Well, Kevin, that is such a wonderful thing for you to say. Thank you so much for chiming in to say that with your first comment. Yeah, I really appreciate that. That all the things you described are things that I try to do. Don't always accomplish, but definitely try to do. I do have some questions from ambassadors on my other screen here. In fact, one, actually, I'll read one of them because it actually dovetails well into Kevin's comment here. The question is, how do you handle external criticism of your games, your business decisions, etc.? You seem to be able to maintain a positive perspective with criticism and not let it get to you. I'm curious about your approach to criticism. And this question really made me think as I was reading over it this morning, because there are so many different types of criticism. There's the type of criticism that I ask for from our shareholders, from my team, that I ask for from you when I ask you questions, when I ask our ambassadors questions, when I ask our champions questions, when I ask our playtesters questions. So there's that type of criticism. And that type of criticism, I would say, is the easiest to accept because I've asked for it. I am putting myself in a position where I am asking for feedback and I am bracing myself. I'm ready to receive it. I get a lot of feedback there, a lot of great feedback there. But there's also the type of criticism that I don't ask for that is still really important, for the type of criticism that I get to see online every day from people posting about Stonemaier Games, about me, about specific games. And for that feedback, I try to be just as open to that feedback, even though I haven't asked for it, because there's a lot of great feedback out there from people who truly don't care what I think. And that can be really helpful feedback for people who don't care how I think or feel. Even within that, though, I found that there are different categories of feedback. There's feedback that is actually constructive, and there's feedback that is almost useless. Like I don't know what to learn from it. Like it's the type of feedback where if someone says, the art in this game is bad. So there's a very minute thing that I can learn from that, which is that you don't like the art in this game. But beyond that, I don't know what I'm going to learn from that. Other than there's a person out there who doesn't like the art that we choose. There are many other more constructive ways to say that type of feedback. And so I've learned over the years to kind of filter out constructive versus deconstructive or negative or chaotic feedback. So part of it, I think my answer to this question is I have gotten a pretty good filter over time for figuring out which feedback is actually actionable, which feedback can I actually learn from, and which feedback is just non-productive. It doesn't have a productive result. And figuring out that filter over time has helped me immensely. That has helped me immensely. So even though I still can have a thin skin at times, when someone challenges me on something that is tough to be challenged on, I think I've learned that it's good to hear that feedback anyway, especially if it is constructively phrased feedback. Yeah. So anyway, Kevin's comment was very positive. This comment was about some of the times where people say stuff that isn't as positive, and I think that stuff is also really, really important for me to hear and to read and learn about. Chad says you design 2 games at a time. Typically, I have 2 games in the design process at a time. That's my typical method. Can you say if the other game is competitive or cooperative? No, I'm not going to give away spoilers in that way, but just my general method is to have 2 games going at a time. I'm mainly curious. So Chad's question, I'm mainly curious if you want to break from co-op design or if you like it. I continue to be intrigued by both competitive and cooperative games as a designer. I think is a fair way to say that. Let's see. Oh, Ian says, I like in your response how you change criticism to feedback. Yeah, that's true. I think, feedback, constructive criticism to me is feedback, although feedback applies to all types of criticism. It's a clever that you noticed that. What factors, this is from Vortex DST, what factors do you think affect the complexity or weight of a game? Is it just a lot of rules or are there other factors? I think a lot of rules are part of it. I think how those rules are presented in the interface of the game impacts complexity. And one thing I've noticed recently is that more and more games are attempting to be language independent. And I don't know if that is for the better. There's certain games where I look at those games and I see just such a vast array of icons used in different combinations. And some of our games might even be at fault of this, but just I see games where they try really, really hard to avoid using any text at all to describe what's going on. And I think that actually makes the game significantly more complex and even harder to learn because of that. So I'm a little baffled. I'm a little baffled by that design decision in games. I think you can make games more accessible and feel a lot lighter than they actually are if you include just a little bit of explanatory text. Even if you have the text and the icons complement each other, that can go a long way. Can you imagine if we had tried to design a Wingspan with all icons instead of just text? It would have been, it would have either limited the creativity for all these different bird abilities that Elizabeth designed, or it would have made the game so much more difficult to play because they're constantly deciphering what does this mean instead of just reading the text for what it actually means. So I think that's a big part of it, the user interface to graphic design. And I also think the setup can make a game feel more complex or a heavier weight than other games. So if you have a game that requires a huge amount of setup versus a game that you can just put on the table and say go, I think that can impact the complexity weight as well. Joe says, that's a great distinction. That aligns to how the brain processes feedback. Feedback you don't ask for is immediately seen by the brain as a threat, where feedback you ask for is not. It actually feels better. Yeah, and totally. And one of the signs for me, Joe, because I do ask for feedback, but I also try to read and learn and hear feedback that I didn't ask for, is oftentimes if I feel myself getting defensive about feedback, that is a signal to me that it's feedback worth listening to. Because oftentimes the most constructive feedback, the type of feedback that digs the deepest in me, is the feedback that puts me on my toes a little bit, that makes me feel a little defensive. And it's a good reminder to me that I need to A, listen to that feedback, and B, sometimes step away from it for a minute and come back to it so I can be receptive to it. Like you said, immediately seen by the brain as a threat. And that is something I become acutely aware of, but it's a good like alarm bell for me that this is something that I actually need to listen to and actually consider. Lee says, my fiance always wants to either retake her turn because she's realized she can do something else or go back and do something she forgot to do. What's your stance on allowing people to do this? My general rule is if I can allow something in the game that will help someone have more fun, then I'm almost always for that. The only catch there is if someone's fun, it can be a detractor on the fun of everyone else at the table. That is where it's a tough spot. So if someone has taken 5 minutes to take their turn, they complete their turn, it's someone else's turn, and that person goes back and says, oh, shoot, can I undo everything I just did? that is at that point that is impacting other people at the table. So that is a tough spot right there. But in a 1 to 2 player game, if it's just you and your wife, I guess for me, if it's just me and Megan, I would almost always let Megan take back her turn because I know that she will have more fun playing the game that way, and I will have more fun if she's having fun. If there's 3 other people at the table, I might have to draw a healthy line there. Yeah. So that's it's a nuanced answer, but I think it is a nuanced situation. Ian says, when you do a slow reveal of a game, are you worried that some people might lose their excitement for the game? And Ian, yeah, that's a great question. That is so there's the pro is momentum when we're revealing a game over the course of a year. Maybe we garner more and more support. It's a rolling ball of snow, but could people lose their excitement? They get excited when they hear about it, when they learn a little bit about it, and then it kind of tapers off over time. Totally viable. Yeah, I am a little worried about that. Absolutely. I always try to think about that anticipation gap when we announce a new product. What is the right amount of time for someone to be excited about a new product before you actually release it, or let them buy it, let them have it? Adam says, do you have a favorite drawing game? A game that involves some drawing, probably Telestrations. I know there are others, but I always come back to Telestrations. Yeah. What is yours, Adam? Do you have one that comes to mind? Garrett says, do you have any stipulations regarding AI with localization partners? I'm wondering if they would want to use AI to translate a game like Vantage because of its size. We discourage the use of generative AI with all of our partners. I wouldn't say necessarily that we have hard and fast rules. I mean, our localization partners are independent of us. But you're right, it is an immense amount of text to translate. And so I have not made stipulations about that for our localization partners. I hope that they don't, but I don't know if it's my place to say for them specifically that they shouldn't use it. I say that specifically because, like, for artists, we have control over the art that we choose for our games. We do not allow our artists, we don't use generative AI for art, and we don't allow our artists to use generative AI for their art either, because we have control over that. The Champion Faction says, looking for lessons in criticism is a great approach. Without anything to learn, the key is to resist taking it personally, especially from someone who doesn't know you, doesn't make it your problem. The tough thing I found about this, the catch about this is it is tough. I believe passionately in the people that we work with, the artists, the proofreaders, our play testers, and designers, in particular, the designers and the artists that we work with. I know that I even have some blind spots with them at times, but I support them unequivocally. And so while I have learned to not take things personally, it is a lot harder for me. Oh, and my coworkers too, my team. So especially, my team, our designers and our artists and our graphic designer. It is really tough for me to not stick up for them in the face of trollish level criticism. If it's valid criticism, something that we can actually learn from, that is one thing. But the chaotic, negative criticism is the criticism that we have nothing to learn from, or it's just someone bashing on someone else. That is really hard for me to take for someone that I really care about. Yeah. Chad says, has your player count sweet spot changed over the years? Not really. I still love games that scale from 2 players all the way up to 5 or 6 players. We encounter those games at our game nights all the time where at game nights, we're not playing 2-player games, but I do like to play 2-player games with Megan. But to have those games that scale all the way up to 5 or 6 and scale well works wonderfully. I was at a game day the other day where we ended up having to divide into 4 players, but for a while we played Love Letter at 5 players. I pulled out Blob Party. We played that at 6 players. And then we played Camel Up at 8 players, and it was delightful. And then we split up into some smaller groups. So I really appreciate those games existing so we can play them at those larger player counts. Also, recent plays include Lords of Waterdeep. I posted about that on Instagram today. I got a hankering to play that and enjoyed a digital play of that. Played Pan Am for the first time. I really enjoyed that. We played No Thanks. Played The Mind, Haven Park, digital game that I played. Played Quacks of Quedlinburg. Had a great time playing that. And there's other ones that I just mentioned as well. We also had our cookbook club this past weekend. That's when some friends and I, we choose a cookbook and we each choose a recipe from that cookbook and cook a recipe out of it. And I made Scotch eggs for the first time ever. Scotch eggs are when you soft boil an egg and cover it in meat and then bread that meat and deep fry it. I used fake meat, and I was curious if that would work out, and it actually, I think, worked out better than normal Scotch eggs. I used Beyond sausage, and it worked out beautifully, way better than I thought. I'll post a picture on Instagram at some point of all the Scotch eggs, what they look like. I cut them all in half, and they weren't quite soft-boiled, but they were still delicious, really, really quite good. I don't know why I still have that question on the screen while I'm talking about that, but yeah. Justin says, what's my favorite disc golf course in St. Louis? Am I more of a Discraft or Innova guy? Definitely more of an Innova guy, especially since so many Stonemaier gifts, or all Stonemaier discs are from Innova. My favorite course is probably Unger. I really, really love Unger. Favorite course for newcomers is Crestwood, and favorite course for more experienced disc golfers is probably Jefferson Barracks. Yeah. I did play on Friday this past week. Where did we play on Friday? I'm blanking on it now. Oh, we played at Endicott. I played with my friend Zach and oh no, I'm blanking on the other person that I played with. Sorry about this, but anyway, played a great round at Endicott on Lucas on Friday, and I played. It was one of these days where I played really, really well. Played above my abilities for most of the day. And then I had a double bogey and a bogey on the last two baskets. So I like to end things well. I like movies that end well. I like books that end well. I like games that end well. So I didn't end the day as strong as I could, but I did have some great baskets. And I had a great time just hanging out with Lucas and Zach over the course of that afternoon as we played at Endicott. I also played soccer for the first time, played pickup soccer for the first time in a couple of years now. And it is the reason that I'm sitting down right now because my legs still hurt so badly. I had to get a pretty bad cramp as I was playing. We were playing on a very hot day in St. Louis, but I had a blast playing. I've played soccer since I was like 4 years old. I played it my entire life. I got really into pickup soccer in my adulthood, and I just haven't played in a few years because I've been playing disc golf instead. But I really had a wonderful time, and yeah, and it was fun. I mentioned soccer in today's post as well because the Copa tournament is happening in America right now, and the Euros are happening in Europe, and so I'm following both of those tournaments, and really enjoying following both of those tournaments. Adam asked about favorite drawing games. He says Pictomania is a great party drawing game since everyone is drawing and guessing at the same time. Pictomania. I don't think I've played this one, Adam. Is this the one with the magnets on it, where you're using magnets? Probably not, since it is, you mentioned, a drawing game. Oh, but yeah, I'll have to try that. I don't think I've played Pictomania. The Champion Faction says that about the question about redoing, allowing someone to redo. It says, we always allow redo turns on two conditions. If it isn't hard to rewind the game to the point of change, that's fair. The decision to redo wasn't based on a bad dice roll or other luck-based outcome. And yes, usually if that comes up on someone's turn, like after multiple other turns have gone by, if it's something that that is completely deterministic, so no luck at all, and wouldn't impact the other players who have already taken their turns as well, I allow take-seat backsies on that as well. Nate says he went to Origins this past weekend and had a blast. I'm glad to hear that. A surprise game that I picked up was Seaside. Already played it 5 times, and it's a great lightweight pub-style game. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I'm not familiar with Seaside. I'm glad you had fun at Origins, Nate. Mark says, what am I currently backing on crowdfunding? I don't know if I'm backing anything right now on crowdfunding. Let's see. Pull up Kickstarter here and Game Found. Let's see if I'm backing anything on either of those platforms. Oh, I am backing. Oh, I think that's over. I think the project ended. Oh, yeah. The Secret Villages and Santa's Workshop project did end. Congrats to them. Elf Creek for raising $267,000. That's awesome. And on Game Found, I don't think I'm backing. It's hard for me to see like what I'm currently backing on Game Found, but I don't think I am backing anything right now. What about you, Mark? Are you backing anything exciting? Allison says, do you have a favorite realm pack from the upcoming Rolling Realms box? A favorite realm? You know, I'm not the designer of all the realms in this pack. I'm the developer of many of them, the designer of, I think, only 1, 2, maybe 3 of them. One of them that I designed is a poker-themed realm. So I am pretty excited about that. I had fun designing the poker-themed realm. So that's one that I definitely am pretty excited about. Yeah. Jeff says, I've been using Blob Party as the icebreaker for his students during small group advising sessions, and it's been a big hit. That's awesome, Jeff. Yeah, it is. such an amazing game. This is going back to Pam Wall's game design. I love this style. In fact, this is another question. I should mention this today. Thank you, Jeff. I'm glad to hear that. And I have another Block Party reference here. Someone asked among the ambassadors, they said, let's see, what is the question? Okay, they said, what is a game mechanism that used to resonate for you but has grown old, or conversely, one that used to have limited interest in but has now sparked your attention? And so a genre of games that I used to really be drawn to were dueling style games. Games like Magic the Gathering. I'm dueling one other player, but I'm finding that I don't usually, my main partner for playing games is Megan. Playing 2-player games is Megan, and I don't usually play dueling games with her. And so I moved away from dueling games. And the other category, which made me think of Block Party, is cooperative party games. This is a category that I probably never would have even considered had I not played Telestration. Oh no, Telestration is not cooperative. That's, I think, started my interest in this style of game. But Just One was probably the first, where I was like, oh, this is my style of cooperative game, where there's a different puzzle for everyone to think about. It moves quickly. Everyone's involved. And the spotlight is never really on you. You don't have to worry about the spotlight being on you, or very rarely being on you. I don't like being the center of attention in those sorts of environments, or not really all that much at all. This is fine, but not at a game night. And so cooperative party games, I found are a category that I really like. These include, on my shelf, includes Just One, So Clover, Fun Facts, Ito, and Block Party. Those are all games in that category that I really, really enjoy. Julie says, have you ever played disc golf at Bluebird Park or Schroeder Park? They're pretty hilly and woodsy. I love Schroeder Park. I've played there many, many times, Julie. It is hilly, it is woodsy, it is a tough challenge, but I love it. I have not played at Bluebird Park, as far as I know. No, I don't think so. I will make a note of Bluebird Park. I will have to give that a try. Always looking for a good new course to try. I'm guessing maybe it's a little bit further away from me, and that's why I haven't heard of it, but I'll definitely check that out. Vortex says, do you prefer games that have most actions on a player board like Wingspan compared to games with a lot of actions and mechanisms on a big public game board like Apiary? I would say both. I enjoy both of those. The thing that I try to stay away from, and that I generally advise designers to stay away from, are action checklists. So action checklists would fall into the category of neither of those things, where the actions, instead of being on your player board or on a shared board, are off to the side on a reference card that you need to reference. I love reference cards, but not for action checklists. So really, honestly, I enjoy both of those formats way over the action checklist format. Your Inner Child says, have you heard that Thomas Lehman is making a roll and write for Race for the Galaxy, and he wants to make it be like no other roll and write? I haven't heard of that, but now I have. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, that's exciting. I think, did he also design Roll for the Galaxy, or was that designed by someone else kind of in partnership with Tom? Helen says, what position do you play in football/soccer? When I was growing up, I played, my main asset was speed. I was a sprinter. And so I would play forward for my high school team, but I wasn't particularly good at scoring, just good at running around. And I would play marking back for my club team. In pickup soccer, I kind of roam all over the field, and really I haven't played in a while, so it was kind of new to me to refresh myself. This past weekend when I played for about an hour before getting a cramp, I played some forward, and then when I needed a little bit of a break, I drift back and play marking back. I would say the place that I feel the least comfortable is right in the middle of the field. I like to be either at the top or the bottom of the field. Yeah. What about you? Did you play football or soccer, Helen? What position did you play? It's John's birthday. Happy birthday, John. Happy 35th birthday. Hope you're having a great day. What are you doing to celebrate today? What are you treating to yourself today, John? That's good. Jeff says that own goal is the leading goal scorer at the Euros so far. Huh, how about that? That's crazy. I do. So Corey mentioned in terms of drawing games, he mentioned the game Monstrosity. I have played and have really enjoyed that. That is one where you are on the spot a little bit, but it is delightful. Ian says that his wife and him will backtrack and move when we play if we see something before the next person takes their turn. I think that's nice and fair, good, especially good for couples gaming. Julie also mentions Monstrosity. Ian mentions Artsy Fartsy and Doodle Dash are both great. I haven't played either of those, but I like those names. Both wonderful names for games. Chad says, what's your go-to fruity raw? I would say with me getting really into going to farmers markets over the last few years, especially the Tower Grove Farmers Market here in St. Louis, I love finding whatever fruit is in season. And I also consistently eat oranges, easy peel oranges. I like, what are they called? Like cuties or something like that. I eat those consistently because I like to get vitamin C throughout my diet. So that's probably my favorite fruit to eat raw consistently. But fresh local fruit is something I also really enjoy. So in my fridge right now, I have peaches, I have cherries, I have blackberries, and I have blueberries, all of which are very recently in season here in St. Louis. Mark is backing right now Apotha Bakery, Ada's Dream, Flowers from the Philippines, Brink, and Brink, to name a few. You can only back a few of them. Yeah. I'm glad you're making responsible choices about how much you back, Mark. And yeah, those are, I was tempted to back Apotha Bakery. It does look pretty cool, but I'm on the fence right now about it. Garrett mentions A Fake Artist Goes to New York. This is a fantastic drawing game. I really, really like this one, Garrett. We play with some house rules sometimes. This is one of the few games that I actually do house rule a little bit. But yeah, I love A Fake Artist Goes to New York. Robert says that I should consider backing Sismic. The campaign has been awesome. It looks great. The creator has been 1,000%. That's a lot of percentages. Transparent about the whole process in his updates. I have not heard of Sismic. Sismic. But I appreciate the recommendation both about the game and the person behind it. I'll check that out. Yeah, thank you for letting me know about that. Your inner child says that Ben at Board Game Schoolhouse could use your shout out. His videos on how to play games with children are amazing. He only has 500 subscribers, but has me inspired to try harder to play with his boys. So anyone watching this, check out Board Game Schoolhouse, especially if you have kids. I can't vouch for it yet because I haven't checked it out, but I will take a look at Board Game Schoolhouse. Yeah. Awesome. And Matthew says, got to get into tangerines or sumo tangerines, easy to peel and much greater orange flavor. Sumo tangerines. Yeah, that sounds really, really good. That sounds kind of akin to what I'm eating with these. I think they're called cuties. Is that the right term? What else was I going to cover today? We talked about Rolling Realms Redux a little bit. I talked about some movies. Oh, I am reading a new book that I'm really enjoying, a book called The Serpent and the Wings of Night. It is Hunger Games meets The Fourth Wing meets vampires. And it's really good so far. Like, I've been surprised by how consistently good the book is so far. So that is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Really, really enjoying it. And I believe it's part of a trilogy where the second book is already out. The third book will come out later this year. So it's a good time to get into this book. If any of that intrigues you, I'm really loving it. So again, Megan's out of town right now. I've been going to bed early just so I can read more of this book every night. Okay, cuties are a thing. Chad's been eating bananas. I should, with this cramp right now, I should get some bananas and eat bananas because I think that potassium would help with this cramp that I got from playing soccer the other day. I didn't mention some recent videos and blog posts that I recently did. I did a blog post about Caitlin Clark, and the theme of the blog post was, what if someone in your industry is getting a disproportionate amount of information? How can you deal with that? How can you leverage that to your benefit? If you want to leverage that. If you don't want to, that's fine too. I did a blog post about how to structure, one of the ways that you could structure your company so that you can accept investors and shareholders. And I also talked about a video. I had a video this past weekend with a wonderful guest, Zoe, about games with multiple winners, competitive games that aren't team-based games, that aren't partnership games, that have the potential for multiple winners. Some of you offered some feedback about that. And yeah, that was a fun video to do with Zoe a few weeks ago. Let me see if I can end with a question or two. Here's a question. What are you most excited for this upcoming summer? So I guess a couple different categories of excitement. I'm excited about a family reunion that I'm attending this summer. I am excited about Gen Con. Even though I'm not attending Gen Con, I do still get excited about all this fun stuff that happens at Gen Con. I'm excited about Rolling Realms Redux from Stonemaier Games. I am excited about the Wolverine movie for sure. I keep wanting to say Daredevil, but it's not Daredevil. It's Deadpool. Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about all the soccer tournaments happening right now. Yeah, I think those are the main things. It's very hot in St. Louis. I want to say like getting outdoors and doing outdoor stuff, but it's so hot in St. Louis right now. I need it to be a little bit cooler. So why don't I end with that? We'll end with a fun little ambassador question there. What are you excited about this summer? Still remaining this summer, what are the things in any categories that you are really, really excited about? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Actually, one more question from Vortex here. Vortex says, what are some good engine building games? I saw your video on games like Wingspan, but are there other fun ones? There are. Here, I'll pull up. I have a video about engine building games that I probably need to revisit at some point, but let's see what I said when I last filmed this. Search for engine. Top 10 favorite engine building games. Yeah, I filmed this 5 years ago, so it's a little bit dated. But at the time, when I filmed, my top 10 favorite engine building games that I mentioned in no particular order were Russian Railroads, Tzolk'in, Terra Mystica, Clank, Terraforming Mars, Splendor, Hansa Teutonica, Dice Forge, Orleans, Scythe, and Coimbra. And this is one to revisit because progression and engine building is one of my favorite mechanisms to see in any game. I'm intrigued by any game that has this. So I appreciate you asking about that. I'm going to revisit that video in the future and see what I think. Matthew says, how is no one mentioned being excited for Gen Con? I said Gen Con. I said I was excited about Gen Con. I won't be attending, but I am excited about it. And Chandra also said Gen Con and the much anticipated apiary expansion. That won't quite be this summer, but it will be a little bit after that. And I'm excited about that too, for sure. Okay, I'm going to close off the video so your comments will appear on the real final version of the video. Thank you all for hanging out today. It's always good to hang out with you and see you. And I will see you in the comments of the video in the future. All right. Have a good day and a good week. Take care. Bye.